My sister, Amanda, just stood there, in front of our whole family, totally speechless. The cruel, passive-aggressive birthday gift she'd given me moments before had just blown up in her face, becoming her own public humiliation. And the best part? All I had to do was be kind. So, how did a cheap, tacky present lead to the most satisfying revenge of my life? It's a long story, and trust me, it didn't start at my birthday dinner. It started when we were kids, with the unspoken roles our family gave us. To really get the poetic justice of it all, you have to understand the decades of little cruelties that led to that moment. You have to understand my sister. Growing up, Amanda was the sun, and I was her shadow. That's the simplest way to put it. She was 2 years older, and in our family's eyes, that meant she was 2 years ahead in every way possible. She was the beautiful one, the charming one, the one who could do no wrong. I was the quiet one, the awkward one, the one who was just there. It's a classic sibling dynamic, I know, but the weight of it shaped our entire lives. Our parents weren't malicious, not on purpose, but they were tired, and it was just easier to buy into the narrative Amanda created. A narrative where she was the star, and I was just a footnote in her story. The rivalry, if you can even call it that, wasn't about big dramatic fights. It was a war of 1,000 paper cuts, and every single one was delivered with a smile. I remember when I was about 10, I'd spent weeks on a diorama for school. It was a scene from my favorite book, and I poured my heart into it, even using my own allowance for special modeling clay. I was so proud. The night before it was due, Amanda came into my room, gushing about how amazing it was. She picked up the main character, a tiny knight I'd painted with a toothpick, and told me his shield was a little crooked. She offered to fix it for me. The next morning, I woke up and the knight was snapped in half, and a crucial part of the castle wall was caved in. When I confronted her, crying, she put on an Oscar-worthy performance of shock. "Oh my God, I must have put him back too hard. I am so sorry. I was just trying to help." My parents heard the commotion, saw my tears and her frantic apology, and the verdict was swift. It was an accident. I was overreacting, and Amanda had such a good heart for trying to help. I got a C on the project. Amanda got praised for being a caring older sister. This became the pattern: sabotage disguised as help, insults wrapped in compliments. When I got my braces off in high school and was finally feeling a little confident, she looked at my new smile and said, "Wow, it's amazing what modern dentistry can do. You almost can't even tell how bad your teeth used to be." At my high school graduation, where I was salutatorian, she hugged me and whispered, "I'm so proud of you. It must be so nice for you to finally be good at something." Each comment was a tiny poisoned dart. If I reacted, I was too sensitive. If I didn't, the poison just seeped in. My family saw a charming, witty girl and her quiet, moody little sister. They didn't see the architect of my anxiety. They didn't see the low-level psychological warfare I was living through every single day. As we got older, her methods got more sophisticated, but the goal was the same: keep me in my place. When I got my first serious boyfriend, she'd pull him aside at family gatherings to tell him funny stories about me as a kid, painting me as childish and insecure. She'd say things like, "Oh, she's always been a little dramatic. I'm so glad she has you to take care of her. She wasn't just my sister, she was my own personal public relations nightmare." The worst part was how lonely it was. It felt like I was the only one who could see the monster behind the mask. Everyone else just saw the angel. And when you're the only one screaming that the angel is actually a demon, you just look crazy. So, I learned to smile through the backhanded compliments. I learned to say thank you for the help that was really sabotage. I learned to play my part. But underneath it all, resentment was simmering, waiting for the right spark to finally boil over. Turns out, that spark was a box of cheap chocolates. My birthday has never been a huge deal for me. I'm not big on parties or being the center of attention, a personality trait my sister's conditioning had thoroughly cemented. For my 28th, all I wanted was a quiet dinner at my parents' house with them, my aunt and uncle, and, of course, Amanda. In the weeks before, Amanda and I had been in another one of our silent rough patches. I'd gotten a promotion and made the mistake of sharing the news in the family group chat. Everyone was so happy for me. Everyone except Amanda. She waited a full day before replying with a single thumbs up emoji. It was so petty it was almost funny. But it was also her screaming, "Your success is an inconvenience to me." So, come my birthday, I wasn't expecting much. What I didn't expect was a full-on performance. She arrived with a brightly wrapped gift and a huge smile. "Happy birthday, little sis," she chirped, loud enough for everyone to hear. I saw this and just had to get it for you. After dinner, we all gathered in the living room. I opened thoughtful, lovely gifts from my parents and my aunt and uncle. Then, all eyes turned to Amanda's present. She handed it to me with a flourish. The wrapping paper was cheap, the kind that rips if you just look at it. As I started unwrapping it, I could feel her eyes on me, gleaming with a weird, predatory excitement. This wasn't a gift. It was an ambush. Inside was a small, generic box of assorted chocolates. Not from a nice chocolatier, but the kind you find at a gas station. And right there on the cellophane was a bright orange price sticker, $3.99. My heart just sank. It wasn't about the money. It was about the intention. Leaving the price tag on a gift is a message. Leaving a low price tag on a gift, in front of everyone, is a declaration. It's a way of saying, "This is all you're worth to me." It was a public shaming disguised as a present. But she wasn't done. Tucked inside was a card, a generic happy birthday card from a multi-pack. On the back, right next to the barcode, was the individual price, 25 cents. She had to have gone out of her way to find a card priced like that. The cruelty was in the details. I looked up and saw her face. She was wearing a mask of sweet concern, but her eyes were dancing. She was waiting for me to react, to cause a scene, to prove I was the sensitive, dramatic one. The room had fallen silent. My mom was staring at her hands. My aunt looked like she'd swallowed a lemon. They all saw it, but years of avoiding conflict with Amanda had them paralyzed. In that moment, a strange calm washed over me. I looked at the cheap chocolate, the 25-cent card, and my sister's smug face, and I didn't feel anger. I felt clarity. The game was finally out in the open. She had overplayed her hand. I smiled. A genuine, warm smile. "Wow, Amanda," I said, my voice totally even. "Thank you. You know how much I love chocolate." I stood up, walked over, and gave her a hug. I held it for just a second too long and felt her stiffen. She'd expected a storm. She had no idea what to do with a clear sky. I put the chocolates on the coffee table and didn't mention them again. But as I sat there, making small talk, a seed was planted. Her birthday was in 2 months, and for the first time in my life, I was going to get her a gift she truly deserved. The 2 months between our birthdays were a period of intense, almost gleeful planning. The anger I'd suppressed had finally surfaced, but it was cold, sharp, and focused. For the first time, payback felt justified. It wasn't just about a cheap gift. It was about a lifetime of being made to feel small. My first instinct, of course, was to fight fire with fire. I spent lunch breaks scrolling websites, concocting the perfect petty revenge. My shopping carts were a gallery of passive-aggressive masterpieces. A self-help book titled How to Win Friends and Influence People? Too obvious. A gym membership? Too cliché. For a while, my favorite idea was finding the ugliest, most useless thing at a thrift store. A chipped porcelain cat with one eye, maybe, wrapping it in expensive paper, and giving it to her with a dead straight face. The contrast would have been delicious. I played these scenes out in my head, imagining her confusion, then her anger. But every time I settled on a plan, a nagging feeling pulled me back. Stooping to her level meant getting in the mud with her. It would give her the reaction she craved. A fight would just be another episode in the drama of the difficult sisters. I'd get a moment of satisfaction, but she'd get a lifetime of ammunition, forever the victim of her mean, ungrateful sister. I was stuck. I wanted justice, but I didn't want to become her. The turning point came on a rainy Sunday. I was at my mom's, helping her with old photo albums. We found a picture of us as little girls on a swing set. Amanda is grinning at the camera, and I'm looking up at her with pure adoration. My mom sighed. "You two used to be so close." "We were never close, Mom," I said, a little sharper than I meant to. She was just better at pretending. My mom looked at me, and I think for the first time, she really saw it. She just said, "I know she can be difficult. Your grandmother used to say about people like that, you can't fight bitterness with bitterness. The only thing you can do is kill them with kindness." I'd heard it a million times, a platitude I'd always dismissed as naive. But hearing it then, it hit differently. What if killing them with kindness wasn't about being a doormat? What if it was a strategy? A weapon? Kindness is a mirror. You can argue with rudeness. You can deny cruelty, but you can't refute genuine, undeniable kindness. My sister thrived on conflict. She didn't know how to handle sincerity. She didn't know how to fight someone who wasn't fighting back. A petty gift would be a quick jab, but an incredibly thoughtful, personal, kind gift, that would be a knockout. It would say, "I see your pettiness, and I raise you grace. I see your cruelty, and I raise you consideration." It was the perfect revenge, because it wasn't really about revenge. It was about changing the rules of the game. The goal wasn't to make her feel bad, but to leave her with no comeback, no sarcastic retort, no way to twist the narrative. The goal was to leave her speechless. And with that, the anger dissolved, replaced by a crystal clear purpose. I knew exactly what I had to do. Once I had the strategy, the execution became a meticulous project. This couldn't be just any nice gift. It had to be the perfect gift. Something that screamed thoughtfulness. Something that proved I paid attention. I started thinking about Amanda. Not the monster, but the person. What did she actually care about? Deep down, Amanda was a talented artist. In high school, she was brilliant with charcoal and pastels. But she gave it up, claiming it was a silly hobby. The truth? I think she was afraid of not being the best, so she quit before she could fail. Over the years, I'd hear her talk wistfully about painting. It was a tiny crack in her armor, and that crack was my target. I went to a specialty art supply store, the kind that smells like linseed oil and creativity. I didn't want a generic starter kit. I needed something an expert would appreciate. The owner helped me pick everything out for oil painting. A beautiful, handcrafted wooden easel. A full set of professional-grade oil paints, the rich, buttery kind. A variety of high-quality brushes, palette knives, refined linseed oil, and a stack of perfectly primed gallery-wrapped canvases. It was a complete professional setup. A gift that didn't just say, "You should try painting again." It said, "You are an artist, and you deserve the best tools." The total came to just over $400, more than I'd ever spent on a gift. But every dollar felt like an investment in my own peace. But that was only half the weapon. The other half was the card. I went to a fancy papery and found it, a simple, cream-colored card made of thick, textured paper, with a single hand-painted watercolor of a bird on the front. It was exquisite. And on the back, in tiny, discreet letters, was the price, $15. It was perfect. The final piece was the presentation. I'd leave the price tag on the card, a direct callback to her 25-cent insult. But I would meticulously remove every price tag from the art supplies. The message had to be precise. The symbol of my affection, the card, has a price, and I want you to see it. But the affection itself, the gift, is priceless. It was psychological checkmate. I wrapped everything in beautiful, heavyweight silver paper with a lavish silk bow. In the expensive card, I wrote a simple, devastatingly sincere message. "Amanda, I've always admired your incredible talent. I hope this inspires you to create something beautiful. Happy birthday, with all my love." Looking at the pile of gifts, I felt a profound calm. This wasn't just about revenge anymore. This was about reclaiming my own story. Okay, so I have to ask you. As I was standing there, looking at this pile of gifts, I had a moment of doubt. Was this the right move? Was it too much? Or should I have just found that one-eyed porcelain cat? Let me know in the comments what you would have done. Is petty revenge more satisfying, or is killing them with kindness the ultimate power move? And while you're down there, if you're enjoying the story, hit that subscribe button. You won't want to miss how this plays out. Amanda's birthday party was exactly what you'd expect. Loud, flashy, and all about her. I walked in with my arms full of elegantly wrapped packages. I could see Amanda spot me from across the room, a smirk already on her lips. She was probably expecting a gift certificate to a dollar store. I calmly placed the stack of gifts by her seat. "Happy birthday, Amanda," I said with a warm, genuine smile. She looked at the pile, then at me. Her smirk faltered. "Wow," she said, her voice dripping with fake sweetness. "You went all out." "Only the best for my big sister," I replied, my tone perfectly even. When it was time for gifts, she, of course, saved mine for last, ready for the grand finale. "And this last one, or ones," she said, gesturing to the pile, "is from my little sister." A few of her friends snickered, clearly in on the joke. She picked up the card first. I watched her run her fingers over the thick paper and read my message. No reaction. Then, as she put it down, her eyes did exactly what I hoped. They darted to the back of the card. I saw the moment she registered the $15 price tag. A tiny, almost invisible twitch of her eyebrow. Her smile tightened. This wasn't in her script. She moved on to the gifts, tearing off the silver paper. First, the canvases. "Oh, canvases," she said, her voice a little flat. "How practical." Next, the easel. Her friends were starting to look bored. Then she opened the last, biggest box. Inside, nestled in tissue paper, were the paints, the brushes, the oils. A hush fell over the table. This was not a gag gift. This was serious. This was thoughtful. Amanda just stared at it. She picked up a tube of paint, turning it over and over. She ran her thumb over the bristles of a brush. She looked at the comprehensive, beautiful, and undeniably expensive collection of tools for a life she had abandoned. She looked up at me. Her face was a blank canvas. The smirk was gone. The cruelty was gone. All that was left was raw, naked confusion. Her mouth opened, like she was about to say something sarcastic to regain control. What am I supposed to do with this? Or a little presumptuous, don't you think? But the words wouldn't come. How could they? How could she mock a gift that was so personal? How could she insult something so profoundly kind? Any sarcastic remark would make her look petty and ungrateful. She was trapped. My kindness had built a cage around her, and she had walked right into it. She searched my face for a hint of mockery, and found nothing but serene sincerity. Our whole family was watching. My mom had tears in her eyes. My dad was looking between us with dawning understanding. For the first time, they were seeing our dynamic with perfect clarity. They saw her cruelty on my birthday and my grace on hers. The narrative she had built for decades crumbled in a moment. She finally found her voice, but it was just a whisper. "Thank you," she said, not to me, but to the table. She couldn't look at me. She, Amanda, the woman who always had the last word, was, for the first time in her life, utterly speechless. The rest of the party was weirdly subdued. Amanda barely spoke. She couldn't. Tasked the gift sat there, a silent monument to her defeat. She was so prepared for a fight, she had no defense against peace. The drive home with my parents was quiet, but it was a comfortable quiet. "That was a very nice gift you got your sister, honey," my dad said, looking at me in the rearview mirror. It was what he didn't say that said everything. In the weeks and months that followed, something shifted. It wasn't dramatic. Amanda didn't call me to apologize for decades of torment. The change was in the little things. The snide comments just stopped. The backhanded compliments vanished. When I shared good news, she'd reply, "That's great. Congratulations." No emoji, no sarcasm. For Amanda, that was a sonnet. About 6 months later, I was at my parents' house and walked past the spare room. The door was ajar. I peeked inside. There, in the center of the room, was the easel. A half-finished canvas was on it, a beautiful, moody painting of a stormy sea. On a table nearby, the paints and brushes were all laid out, used but cared for. She was painting again. She never mentioned it to me. We never spoke about the gift again. We didn't have to. The unspoken truce was stronger than any conversation we could have had. My kindness hadn't just killed her in that moment, it had neutralized the entire conflict. It ended the war. By refusing to fight, I had won. The revenge wasn't her humiliation at the party. The real revenge was the quiet aftermath, the new peace at family dinners. The real revenge was getting my sister back. Not the one she had been, but a quieter, more thoughtful version I never knew could exist. By holding up a mirror of kindness, I hadn't just shown her how ugly her behavior was. I had shown her how beautiful she could be. And that was a victory far sweeter than any petty revenge. So, did I do the right thing? Or do you think she deserved something a little more direct? This kind of victory isn't for everyone. It takes patience. It takes playing the long game. But in the end, I didn't just get revenge. I got freedom. Freedom from her games, from the anger I was carrying, and from the role she had cast for me my entire life. Sometimes, the most powerful move you can make is to refuse to play by your opponent's rules. Sometimes, the best way to win isn't to bring them down, but to force them to rise up to your level. Thanks so much for listening to my story. If you have a killing them with kindness story of your own, I would love to read it in the comments. And don't forget to like this video if you enjoyed it. And subscribe for more stories about family, drama, and the sweet satisfaction of justice. I'll see you in the next one.